Hello and welcome to Bedhead Books. Now we're going to do something very different today. Like most review channels on this platform, there might be occasions where I find I don't feel I have quite enough material to give a full in-depth review like I usually do. So what I'm going to bring you today is going to be the first in what I hope is a new series for this channel called Book to Back, where I shall be reviewing a couple of books, giving my quick fire thoughts on them, and the books I've chosen today are all under the loose theme of what happens on tour stays on tour. So they're all about live music, and let's get right into it. So we're going to start off with Roadie by Matt McGinn, who is guitar technician specifically for Coldplay and has been since the year 2000. As far as I'm aware, he still is. This book is actually from 2010. I wouldn't normally have sought this book out. I have to say I'm not really a Coldplay fan. I do like some of their songs and I think they come in for a bit too much criticism sometimes, but I wouldn't have actively sought out a book on them. But this looks particularly interesting. It was just £1 in a charity shop near me, and there's a few creases in the dust on the dust cover, but apart from that it's in relatively good condition. And speaking as a technician myself, there are a lot of things in the book that I can obviously relate to, including like technical mishaps, or the dealings you have to have with other people that sometimes don't go quite as well as expected. When I was working in a school a few years ago, I was part of this sketch that was being performed. It was a Strictly Come Dancing sketch and I was doing the voiceover. And throughout rehearsals, everything went fine, no problem with the microphones whatsoever. When it came to the actual event, the microphone didn't work, and I had to bellow at the top of my lungs from the back of the room. And after the performance, I was asked, what's that about? What happened there? And I couldn't really give an answer. And McGinn talks about a couple of times where he too has been in that situation. Incidentally, for the less technical of you, a guitar technician would have to do things like restring guitars, make sure each guitar was in its proper tuning, make sure they all get to the venue safely, as well as look after pedals, leads, amplifiers. And specifically, McGinn had to do this for Coldplay's lead guitarist Johnny Buckland. Many technicians and engineers obviously do live their lives vicariously through the band they work for and dream of being rock stars themselves. McGinn has actually taken that a step further by sitting in with Coldplay on a couple of occasions. So there have been performances where he has been hidden away backstage playing acoustic guitar on the intro to Yellow. There's also an occasion that he talks about when he's been on American television with Coldplay to try and mask the fact that they were using a backing tape. I'd say anyone really who is an engineer or technician of any kind, not just music based, but like an electrician or handyman, anything like that, where you have such a big hands-on responsibility and you have to deal with all the things that happen in your day-to-day life, all the trials and tribulations. McGinn has a nice little balance between the amazing and the celebrity lifestyle that he was a part of through the band he was working for. At the same time, he balances that with the mundane. So I think this is a fairly solid memoir from a behind-the-scenes crew member, and I'm going to give Roadie a 7 out of 10. Up next, we have The Secret DJ by, well, we don't know. That's precisely the point. This is an entirely anonymous story from the point of view of a superstar DJ who was active in the 1990s. And from that, we can pick up some clues as to who it might be. The Secret DJ is British, or at the very least European. Secret DJ is male and was in a band before becoming a DJ. And during the first few chapters of my first reading of this, I have to say my suspicions were quite strongly that the author was Fatboy Slim. However, when you get further into the book, the Secret DJ actually does crash and burn quite badly. succumbing to hard partying, heavy drug use, ending up in hospital, which was a little bit too close to the bone for me, having been in hospital myself many times, although at least it wasn't of my own doing, which is more than can be said for the Secret DJ. From this, the Secret DJ lost his whole team and had to start right from the bottom again, living with his parents, eventually moving out to just a small house and having to drive to gigs on his own, smaller, more modest, lower pay type of gigs. And that's when you realise that it can't be Fatboy Slim, because Fatboy Slim is still immensely popular, rightfully so. Being that the author is of the old school, he obviously has a lot to say about more recent developments in DJing. So, for example, the technology and the various, switches and cue buttons that can allow you to manipulate the music a lot more easier than you could when it was just vinyl decks and a crossfader. And I think what his problem is I'm sure he's not alone in this, is that he feels that this might perhaps give DJs a bit of a bad name. It might show them as a bit lazy if all they have to do is push a few buttons. I mean, a joke I've heard online a couple of times before is, if you have two DJs on stage together, how do they decide who gets to press the space bar on the laptop? I have heard the complaint a couple of times before, if DJs don't use vinyl, then they're not proper DJs. Something else the Secret DJ also feels some clear resentment towards is EDM, particularly of the last 10 years, that has taken off and become immensely popular in America. His whole perspective on it is the fact that EDM is essentially a revamping of house music, which the Americans rejected in the 70s and 80s in favour of disco and stadium rock, and now he feels all of a sudden they want to embrace it, and they love it, and they want to sort of effectively mosey in on what has already been in existence for many years. Resentments aside, and however the Secret DJ may feel about the current state of the music industry, this is a fascinating book, I have to say. There is actually a whole subgenre of books like this. So there is one called The Secret Teacher, there's The Secret Barrister, there's a couple of books credited to The Secret Footballer, and I'm not saying explicitly that they are all the same person, but we have nothing to prove or disprove that. So I'm going to give The Secret DJ a 7 out of 10. Last up, we have got Band on the Bus, Around the World in a Double-Decker by Richard King. This tells the story of 9 friends from the UK in the year 1969 who kitted out a double-decker London bus and formed a folk band called the Philanderers. They played on various US TV stations as well as around Europe, and they would often just park the bus up and play for the local town or village that they happened to be in. So I have to say that this book doesn't get off to the best of starts with me, and this is because that King and his friends are members of what were known as a Young Conservatives club. Now, I don't want to get into politics too much on this channel, but when you hear King talk about his background, and indeed the fact that he had undertaken a journey of this kind before, you really get a sense of that this is not quite as spontaneous as you were hoping it would be. They're buying this bus with mummy and daddy's money, and it doesn't quite resonate with me as a working class northerner who, as I say, I was expecting something a little more of the spontaneous kind of nature. Throughout the book, King does give the impression that to him and his friends the music is a little bit secondary, that they're more interested in traveling, making money. They found a business, they get various advertisers and sponsorships, and although they perform, as I say, smaller little gigs for the communities that they visit, there is a lot more emphasis on promoting products. And to an extent, you know, for 1969, you could kind of say that they were ahead of their time, because obviously that is now a big part of the industry: advertisement, sponsorships, product integration, and that was something that was so frequently rejected in the 60s. At the same time, it doesn't quite measure up to what loads of other bands were doing in the 1960s, which was to take their collaboration one step further and live together. You know, you've got bands like Traffic and The Band and their house Big Pink. I expected something a little bit more like that, and unfortunately, as I say, The Band is a little bit of an afterthought. You know, there's even more recent stories that you can read about of musicians such as Mike Posner of Tucker in Ibiza fame, who hadn't made much money from his record deal, and so he decided to get an RV, get together with some friends and play little acoustic gigs for people at the towns and cities that he would visit. And that to me has a lot more of the communal passion for music than this book does have. Actually, there is one particular book that I was expecting Band on the Bus to be, and that is this, which is The Uke of Wallington by Mark Wallington. It's from 2012 and basically tells the story of Wallington, his kids leaving home, him feeling a little bit bored, and rediscovering that at the top of his wardrobe there is a ukulele. So he goes out on tour around open mic nights in the UK entirely of his own bat, and you know, there's the various misadventures along the way, and he does it all himself by public transport and feeding himself with like sandwiches from Tesco's and stuff, and that is a lot more humbling and a lot more real and unique than Band on the Bus was. I might do a full review of this at some stage. When it comes to Band on the Bus, I have to say that I very much enjoy the cover art by Adrian Teal. He's done a fantastic job here of drawing my eyes to the book, but sadly, you know, you look inside it, there's an awful lot of talk, as I say, about sponsorships, advertisers. There's an awful lot of talk too about the bus itself and not being very passionate about cars. That kind of thing just does not really interest me. So I'm afraid I am going to have to give Band on the Bus a 4 out of 10. So because I hate to end this new format on such a negative note, I just thought I would like to let you know of my various projects that I do outside of this YouTube channel. So first of all, there is my second channel where I post just little vlogs and updates. I'm hoping soon to start a regular series on that channel. I'm wanting to learn some new instruments going forward, so you know, subscribe if you're into that kind of thing. I also have a Facebook page for my music where I've been live streaming some of my original songs and covers. Bedhead Books has its own Facebook page in case you were unaware, so make sure that you check that out. You can find quite a few behind the scenes videos on here. And I also have a Patreon as well, so if you would like to see bonus content, if you would like to get episodes early, if you would like to be more involved in this community, please consider contributing to my Patreon. So thanks very much for watching this book-to-back review. Let me know if you've enjoyed it, if you like these quickfire reviews, or if you prefer the more in-depth reviews that I usually give. In the meantime, I will say, read them, but don't weep.